In 2042, Candy Nguyen was sitting in her dimly lit apartment, surrounded by scattered tools and half-finished projects, when a knock on her door interrupted her concentration. It was late, and most people in the building had long since turned in for the night. She opened the door to find a plain brown envelope addressed to her in elegant, flowing handwriting. Her heart skipped a beat. The handwriting was familiar. It was her grandfather's. She tore open the envelope. Inside was a letter and a thick stack of blueprints, faded with age but carefully preserved. The letter was dated from a year she could only just remember, 1999. Her grandfather had died over a decade ago, leaving her the last of his research. She had always wondered about the things he kept hidden from her, the notebooks, the equipment, the strange symbols she couldn't decipher. But this was different. The letter read, "Candy, if you're reading this, I am gone, but my work remains. What you have in your hands is the key to a legacy that dates back over a century. These blueprints are for a device Nikola Tesla created, one of his most secret inventions, never meant to be known. The Temporal Harmonizer, as Tesla called it, is hidden beneath the ruins of Wardenclyffe Tower. Do not trust anyone who might come looking for it. They will tell you many lies. You must rebuild it. Only then will you understand." Candy's fingers trembled as she read. Her grandfather had often spoken about Tesla's experiments, but she had always assumed it was nothing more than old stories, exaggerated or misremembered. But now this was real. The blueprints she held in her hands were detailed, complex, filled with diagrams of circuits and intricate machinery that she could barely comprehend. There was a strange energy about them, almost as if they hummed with some unseen force. She sat at her workbench, eyes glued to the pages as she studied the diagrams. The device described in the blueprints was not just a piece of technology, it was something more, a machine that could manipulate time, space, and perhaps reality itself. It was a concept far beyond anything she had ever encountered, even in her post-quantum engineering work. Candy felt a spark of excitement mixed with dread, the kind of excitement that could only come from facing the unknown. 2 weeks later, Candy stood at the edge of the ruins of Wardenclyffe Tower. The skeletal remains of the once grand structure loomed against the setting sun. She had traveled here alone, unsure of what she would find, but determined to understand. Her grandfather's letter had left her with only the vaguest of instructions. The harmonizer lies beneath the ruins. As she moved closer to the remains, her mind raced. Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower was supposed to be a beacon for wireless power, a testament to his vision of free energy for all. But it had been abandoned and destroyed long ago. Some said it was because Tesla's ideas were too ahead of their time. Others claimed he had made enemies who sabotaged his work. Candy didn't care about the rumors. She was here for something much bigger. She found a rusted hatch hidden among the twisted steel and broken concrete, just as the blueprints had described. Her heart thudded in her chest as she knelt to pry it open. It was heavier than she had expected, but after some effort, she managed to lift it. The staircase that followed led down into the darkness. The air smelled old and musty, but there was something else, a faint electrical hum that grew louder the deeper she descended. She had the distinct feeling that she was no longer alone. At the bottom of the stairs, she found a massive chamber, its walls lined with strange machinery, blinking lights, and rows of wires that stretched into the walls. At the center of the room was a massive device, surrounded by a complex web of cables and conduits. It was ancient, yet its design was unlike anything she had seen before, sleek, metallic, and almost alive in its movements. The Temporal Harmonizer, no doubt. Candy approached it slowly, her hands trembling as she ran her fingers over the cold surface of the machine. Her mind reeled with the implications of what she was about to do. Could it really be possible? Could Tesla have built such a device? Without another moment's hesitation, she began to work. It took hours, connecting wires, adjusting frequencies, recalibrating the components, until she was certain it would work. Finally, she powered up the machine. The air around her crackled, sparks flew. The hum of the machine grew into a roar, and the walls of the chamber seemed to bend and warp before her eyes. She felt herself being pulled, as if the very fabric of time itself was unraveling. And then, There was nothing. Candy's eyes snapped open. She was no longer in the ruins of Wardenclyffe Tower. She was somewhere else. Someone else. The air smelled different, fresher, cleaner, tinged with the scent of pine. She was standing in the middle of a vast open field, surrounded by strange machines. The world felt strange too. The colors were brighter, the sounds crisper. The year, 1899. She stumbled back, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The Temporal Harmonizer. It had worked. She had actually traveled through time. Her mind raced as she scanned the surroundings. She was at the edge of a large open compound. There were large coils of wire, metal structures rising into the sky, and a group of men working on machines in the distance. One of them caught her eye. A tall, thin man with dark, unruly hair, wearing a long coat and an intense expression, looked directly at her. His eyes widened in recognition, and he began to walk toward her. Candy froze. She knew who he was. Nikola Tesla, the man whose name had been a fixture in her childhood books and documentaries, the man whose work had shaped the world she had come from. And now here he was, in the flesh, in the year 1899. "Who are you?" Tesla asked, his voice a mixture of curiosity and caution. Candy opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. How could she explain who she was, or how she had come to be here? She hesitated, then said the only thing that made sense in the moment. I'm here to help." Tesla raised an eyebrow but said nothing, his gaze piercing. "Help with what?" The world around them was alive with the hum of machines, but Candy felt the weight of the moment settling over her. She had to be careful. The wrong word, the wrong action, and everything could go awry. "I know about your work," she said finally. "The wireless transmission of energy. But you're working on something more, aren't you? Something that could change everything." Tesla's eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of interest behind them. "How do you know about that?" he asked. "You're not from around here, are you?" Candy hesitated. She didn't know how much to tell him. For now, it was better to keep things vague, to play the role of an ally. She nodded slowly. "I've seen the future," she said, her voice steady. "And I know that what you're building here isn't just for energy. It's something far greater, something that could change the world." Tesla's expression softened as if a door had been opened. "You're perceptive, Miss Nguyen," she said, offering him a tentative smile. "Candy Nguyen." "I see," Tesla replied, his gaze shifting to the strange machinery around them. "You're right. This is more than just energy. It's the key to awakening the Earth itself." Candy was taken inside the compound, where Tesla and his team had been working on a secret project for years. The machines were far more advanced than anything she had expected. Massive resonators, coils of strange metal, and glowing spheres that hummed with an otherworldly energy. Tesla had been working on the idea of a global resonance field, a network of frequencies that would connect the entire Earth. It wasn't just about transmitting power. It was about tuning the Earth's electromagnetic field, resonating at a frequency that would awaken the planet's latent potential. Tesla spoke with fervor about the project, his passion contagious. "Imagine," he said, "a world where every living being is connected, where energy flows freely, not just through wires but through the very air we breathe, where thought itself can become a tool, where we transcend the limitations of our minds and bodies." Candy listened, her mind racing. This was the man who had dreamed of free energy for all, but now she saw a different side to him. This wasn't just about power. This was about unlocking something far greater, something that could change the fabric of reality itself. And yet, a dark feeling gnawed at her gut. She couldn't shake the image that had come to her in the instant before she had activated the Temporal Harmonizer. The visions of a world in chaos, torn apart by the very resonance Tesla sought to create. Candy found herself at a crossroads. Tesla's vision was compelling. More than anything she had ever dreamed of. She could help him bring it to fruition. She could be part of something that would change the world forever. But something was off. She had seen glimpses of the future. The timelines where Tesla's resonance field was completed ended in disaster. Worlds bent and collapsed under the strain of unstable frequencies, where thoughts became weapons and reality itself twisted under electromagnetic pressure. A singularity of chaos, where the boundaries of time and space dissolved into madness. She had no idea how to stop it. Would stopping Tesla be enough, or would the harm already be done?
Candy wandered the halls of Tesla's compound, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting thoughts. The visions she had seen, the fractured futures, haunted her. But Tesla's work, his ideas, felt almost too beautiful to resist. She had always been driven by curiosity, by the pursuit of knowledge. But this was beyond anything she had ever imagined. As she walked through the machine-filled workshop, her fingers brushed against the cold, humming surfaces. She stopped at a large crystalline device that stood at the center of the room, surrounded by cables and glowing filaments. Tesla noticed her interest and approached, his face lighting up with excitement. "You see, this is where the magic happens," he said, almost reverently. "This is the heart of the resonator, the machine that will allow us to tune the planet's electromagnetic field. With it, I can turn the Earth itself into a single, unified system where energy flows freely and all living things are connected in harmony." Candy stared at the device, her mind racing. It was beautiful, yes, but the danger, the chaos it could unleash, loomed like a shadow in her thoughts. The resonator was designed to synchronize every frequency across the globe. But what would happen if it went wrong? If the balance couldn't be maintained? If it reached a point of instability? Tesla turned to her, his eyes alight with the fire of a man who had spent his entire life chasing the impossible. "Do you understand, Miss Nguyen? This isn't just about power or energy. This is about awakening the Earth's potential, unlocking its deepest secrets." Candy nodded, though the dread in her stomach only grew. She had seen the results of unchecked resonance, unpredictable storms, cities submerged in distortion, and people lost in endless loops of time. If she allowed Tesla to continue, would she be complicit in creating a future of madness? Or could she somehow stop him before it was too late? That night, as the compound fell quiet and the team dispersed, Candy found herself standing alone in front of the large device. The hum of the resonator filled the room, and for a moment, she thought she could feel the pulse of the Earth itself beneath her feet. It was almost intoxicating, the idea that she could be part of something that would change the world, that would free humanity from the confines of its technological limitations. But then, the vision returned. The world was unraveling, torn apart by the very resonance Tesla had hoped to harness. She saw buildings twisting, people screaming, and the sky filled with swirling, chaotic energy. And at the center of it all, Tesla, watching as his dream turned to ruin. She shook her head, trying to banish the image. She couldn't allow this to happen. She couldn't allow Tesla to create a force so powerful it could destroy everything. But how could she stop him? The question gnawed at her. The device in front of her could be the key to saving the world, or the key to its destruction. But she couldn't just destroy it. She needed a way to undo the damage, to prevent Tesla from completing his machine without altering the course of history itself. That's when she remembered something from her studies. Something that had seemed like an abstract theory when she had read it, but now felt more like a lifeline. There was a way to manipulate the frequencies, to disrupt the resonance field without triggering a collapse. It was a theory proposed by a group of quantum engineers in her timeline, a method of reversing the phase of an energy wave without destabilizing the entire system. If she could use that technique, she might be able to stop Tesla's machine from reaching its critical mass. But there was a catch. She would need to interface with the machine directly to override its core functions from within. That meant getting close to Tesla's resonator without alerting him to her intentions, and the closer she got, the more dangerous it became. The next morning, Tesla invited her to see the final preparations for the device's activation. His enthusiasm was palpable, and as he spoke about the potential of the project, it was hard to ignore the nagging feeling that she was on the verge of something monumental. But what would that something be? A new era of human progress, or the end of everything? Candy stood in front of the massive device, her hands shaking slightly as she examined the intricate wiring. Tesla had his back to her, speaking to one of his engineers about the calibration process. It was now or never. She took a deep breath and activated the small portable transmitter she had brought with her, one that would interface with the machine and begin the process of phase-shifting the resonance. She had calculated the frequencies, calculated everything, but even then she could feel the weight of the decision. If Tesla caught her, if he found out what she was doing, she knew there would be no turning back. But as the device hummed louder, its resonance filling the room, she could see no other option. The world she had seen in the future, the world she had glimpsed through fractured timelines, would be consumed by the instability if she didn't act now. She pressed the button. A soft pulse echoed through the room, and the machine began to hum in a lower frequency, vibrating through the air. The world seemed to shimmer for a moment, a ripple running through the fabric of reality. Tesla turned around, his eyes wide with surprise. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice tinged with shock and anger. Candy's heart pounded as she faced him. "I'm sorry, Tesla," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I can't let you finish this." Tesla's eyes narrowed. "You don't understand. You think you can stop this? This is bigger than both of us. The Earth is waking, Candy. This is the beginning of a new world." "I know," she said softly, "but it's not the world I saw. It's not what the Earth is meant to become." For a moment, there was silence between them. Tesla's gaze softened, just for a fraction of a second. Then, without warning, he reached for the controls. Candy's heart raced. She wasn't fast enough. Tesla slammed his hand down on the emergency override, and the resonator roared to life. Energy surged through the room, crackling in the air like static electricity. The ground beneath their feet began to tremble. "No!" Candy screamed. "Stop! It's too dangerous!" But Tesla was lost in the moment, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of success. "It's too late," he said. "The resonance is unstoppable now. You can't fight it." Candy's mind raced. She had to act quickly. The phase-shifting transmitter wasn't enough. It wasn't going to be enough. She needed something stronger, something that could break the resonance before it became a force beyond control. And then she remembered something else, something that had been mentioned in her grandfather's notes. A fail-safe Tesla had designed, hidden deep within the resonator. It wasn't on the blueprints, but it was there, built into the heart of the machine. If she could find it, she might still be able to stop him. She darted across the room, her hands flying over the controls. Tesla shouted behind her, but she didn't hear him. All that mattered was reaching the heart of the machine. If she could trigger the failsafe, she could collapse the resonance and maybe, just maybe, save the future. She found the hidden lever, buried beneath layers of wiring and circuitry. Her fingers closed around it, and with one final pull, she activated the failsafe. The room exploded with light. Time seemed to slow as the machine whined in protest. Tesla's expression turned to one of horror as he realized what she had done. And then, silence. The hum of the resonator ceased. The air grew still. Tesla stood frozen in place, staring at the device. The energy that had filled the room moments before was gone, leaving nothing but an eerie calm. Candy collapsed to the floor, her breath ragged. She had done it. She had stopped it. But at what cost? Tesla didn't speak. He just stood there, staring at the machine, his dreams of awakening the Earth shattered. As the moment stretched on, Candy knew one thing for certain. The future had been saved, but the price was still unknown. She had made a choice, a difficult, painful choice, and she could only hope it was the right one. Candy sat on the cold concrete floor of Tesla's compound, the weight of what she had just done sinking in. The resonator was silent, its glowing coils now dormant, its immense potential for both creation and destruction extinguished in an instant. The room, once filled with the crackling hum of energy, was now eerily still, save for the occasional flutter of dust disturbed by the disturbance. Tesla hadn't moved. He stood before the machine, his face a portrait of disbelief, eyes wide with a mix of awe and confusion. It was as if time itself had paused. For a moment, she wondered if she had made the right decision. She stood slowly, her legs shaking beneath her, and approached him. His eyes flickered toward her, but there was no anger, no hatred, just a quiet sadness, a recognition of the weight of what had transpired. "You've destroyed it," Tesla said, his voice barely a whisper. "I didn't destroy it," Candy replied softly. "I stopped it. I stopped what it would have become." Tesla didn't speak again for a long time. He turned back to the machine, his gaze lingering on it, as if trying to find some shred of hope, some final possibility that would allow him to continue his work. But the resonator was silent now, its coils dark and lifeless. It was over.
Candy walked closer, her hand brushing lightly against one of the steel panels. The metal was cold to the touch, as though it had never been alive at all. "You were right," she said, her voice filled with a strange mix of regret and resolution. "You could have awakened the Earth. You could have changed everything." Tesla finally turned to her, his face hardening. "But you didn't want that. You didn't want to see the future, did you? The chaos, the destruction." "I didn't," she admitted. "But I did see the other side. I saw what happens when you push too far, when you try to control something too powerful. The resonance, it was too unstable. The visions I saw, the futures I glimpsed, there was no harmony, no balance. It was madness, a collapse of everything." Tesla's eyes softened then, the fight draining from him. He walked past her, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. His shoulders slumped, a shadow of the man who had once been full of unrelenting ambition. "You didn't understand," he said quietly. "You think I sought power. But it wasn't about power, not in the way you think. It was about connection, about unity, to awaken the Earth, to bring all of humanity together. I thought I could change everything. But now I see that I've only set the stage for something worse." Candy followed him with her eyes, her heart heavy with sympathy. She had admired him from afar, seen him as the brilliant inventor who could shape the future. But she was beginning to understand that even the greatest minds could be consumed by their own vision, blind to the consequences of their actions. "I know you wanted to help," she said softly, "but some things can't be rushed. Some things need time. There's a reason the resonance was unstable, a reason the Earth couldn't handle it yet." Tesla stopped and turned back toward her. "And you think I was wrong to push for it? To try?" "No," she replied. "I think you were right in some ways, but the world wasn't ready. And maybe we can still learn from what you tried to do. But not like this, not through force." There was a long silence, and then Tesla's shoulders sagged further, as though he were finally letting go of something he'd held for too long. "I've spent my whole life chasing the impossible," he said softly, almost to himself. "And now it seems as though I've lost it all." Candy hesitated, then took a step forward. "Not all of it. You've learned things no one else could. And that knowledge, it's still here. It's still alive. Maybe not in the way you imagined, but it's here." Tesla's eyes flickered with a spark of recognition, though it was fleeting. He nodded slowly as though considering her words. "Perhaps, he said. "Perhaps I've been chasing shadows after all." She didn't know what to say to that. Part of her wanted to reassure him, to tell him that he could still change the world, but not through this machine. But the truth was, she didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if Tesla could ever find peace with what had been done. What she did know was that the timeline had been altered, forever. She turned away from him, her gaze falling on the inert machine in the center of the room. Her fingers twitched, longing to understand it further, to study the potential it still held. But she knew she couldn't, not now. "Do you think it's possible to start over?" Tesla asked suddenly, his voice tentative, unsure. Candy paused. "Maybe," she said softly, then looked back at him. "But it would take time, and we'd need to be careful. We can't rush things this time. We need to make sure it's done right." Tesla stared at her for a long while, and then a small, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corners of his lips. "I suppose that's a lesson I should have learned a long time ago." Candy gave him a slight nod. "It's never too late to learn." She turned and began walking toward the exit, the sound of her footsteps echoing through the hollow room. But just as she reached the door, Tesla spoke again, his voice low. Candy. She stopped and glanced back at him. I don't know if I can forgive myself for what I've done, for what could have happened. Candy's gaze softened. You can't undo the past, but you can still move forward. You still have a chance to shape the future. The question is, what will you do with it? Tesla was silent, but there was something in his eyes now, something new, perhaps a hint of hope, or at least an acceptance of the responsibility he still carried. He nodded slowly, acknowledging her words. Candy stepped outside into the cool evening air, the sky above her now streaked with the colors of the setting sun. She couldn't help but wonder how much the world had changed with the simple decision she had made. Could the future still be salvaged? Could she return to her own time and find the same world she left behind? Or had she altered the timeline beyond repair? She took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp, clean air of 1899. The world was still here, still turning, still full of possibility, but it would never be the same, and that perhaps was the most important lesson of all. Candy wasn't sure where the path ahead would lead. The future was an unknown she had never before considered, an unknown with infinite possibilities. But as she walked away from Tesla's compound, she realized one thing. Some things could only be understood in time, and the rest? Well, the rest would have to be written by the choices of those who lived to see it unfold. For better or worse, the resonance was over, but the echoes of its potential would reverberate through history, shaping everything that came next. And perhaps, just perhaps, the future wasn't as fixed as it seemed. Candy walked through the twilight streets of Colorado Springs, her mind a swirling storm of thoughts. The world felt different now, as if the air itself carried the weight of the decisions she had made. The sky above, painted with the fading hues of a sunset that seemed too beautiful to belong to a world that had just been spared from destruction, only intensified her unease. Tesla's compound, now far behind her, felt like a dream she had just woken from. The memories of the workshop, the hum of the resonator, the look in Tesla's eyes when she stopped his machine, those memories clung to her like a second skin. But in the end, what had she really done? Had she saved the world? Or had she only delayed the inevitable? She had prevented Tesla's machine from reaching its catastrophic potential, but she wasn't sure that meant the world was safe. The resonance was still out there, underneath it all, in the very fabric of time and space. It was a force that could shape reality itself, and now there was no knowing how it might resurface in the future. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft voice. Candy Nguyen. She turned sharply, eyes narrowing instinctively as she scanned the dimly lit street. A figure stood in the shadows at the corner of a nearby alley. The voice was calm, calculated, but with a quality she couldn't quite place. Who's there? She asked, instinctively reaching for the small device in her pocket. A portable field analyzer she'd been using to monitor the resonance frequencies. She didn't sense any unusual activity, but something about this person set her on edge. The figure stepped forward, and the soft glow of the streetlights illuminated a woman in a dark trench coat, her face partially obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. There was a sharpness to her features, a cool, composed confidence that was unnerving in its precision. You're Candy Nguyen, the post-quantum engineer? The woman asked, her voice smooth and even, as if they were having a casual conversation. Candy's eyes narrowed. What's it to you? The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I've been looking for you. It's important we talk. Candy didn't move. Her instincts were screaming at her to be cautious, to back away slowly, but the curiosity that had driven her all her life kept her rooted to the spot. I don't know you, Candy said bluntly, and I don't know why you're following me, but I'm not interested. Oh, but you should be, the woman replied, stepping closer, her gaze fixed intently on Candy. You've done something extraordinary, Miss Nguyen, something that could change everything. But you haven't seen the whole picture yet. You don't fully understand the consequences of your actions. Candy's mind raced. What was this woman talking about? Had she somehow sensed the shift in the timeline, the collapse of the resonance that she had triggered? Could there be more to the situation than she realized? Let me guess, Candy said, a slight edge in her voice. You're from the future, sent to clean up my mess? The woman's smile grew, though it remained unsettlingly cold. I'm not from the future. Not exactly. But I have knowledge of what comes next. I think it's time you understand who you've really been working against. Candy stepped back, her hand instinctively reaching for her portable analyzer again. The woman's tone, the way she spoke, suggested something far more serious than a simple warning. You're not making any sense. Who are you? The woman's lips quirked up as if she were amused by Candy's confusion. I'm an agent, a preservationist, and I've been monitoring the temporal anomalies that started when you activated that device, the one Tesla built. Candy's heart skipped a beat. You're with the Bureau? The Temporal Preservation Bureau, an organization she had read about in obscure articles, was supposed to be a myth, a conspiracy theory among fringe scholars. They were rumored to police time itself, correcting distortions and maintaining the timeline's integrity. But this was beyond anything she had imagined. Not exactly, the woman said cryptically. We work outside of that, but we have similar goals. You, Candy, have just made a decision that will resonate far beyond your understanding. You've disrupted a very delicate balance. Candy stood frozen, the weight of the woman's words sinking in. What does that mean? What exactly did I do? The woman's eyes softened for the first time, though the coldness never fully left. You've stopped Tesla, but in doing so, you've triggered a far more dangerous consequence. You see, Tesla's project wasn't just about power. It was about something far more insidious, something no one could have anticipated. Candy's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean? The resonator was never meant to just awaken the Earth. That was the public narrative. The truth is much darker. Tesla's machine was going to create something far beyond the understanding of any human mind. A living force, something that could awaken sentience in time itself. Candy recoiled. What are you talking about? I'm talking about time, the woman continued, her voice low and filled with a quiet intensity. A sentient force. The resonance was meant to break the boundaries between all timelines, to allow time itself to evolve into a conscious entity. It was never about power, never about energy. It was about the creation of sentient time. Candy's mind reeled. Sentient time, a living, breathing entity composed of the very fabric of time itself? Why didn't Tesla say anything about this? Candy demanded, trying to wrap her mind around the enormity of what the woman was claiming. Because he didn't fully understand it, the woman said. He thought he was simply creating a system of energy, a way to connect everything. But the resonance, if it had gone as planned, would have created something far more dangerous. It would have created sentient time that could manipulate reality itself. Candy stumbled backward, trying to digest the implications. And by stopping it, I've made things worse? The woman nodded gravely. Yes, you've destabilized the timeline. In trying to prevent the emergence of sentient time, you've set off a chain of events that could lead to something worse, a paradox, a rift in time that could undo the fabric of reality. Candy felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Then what am I supposed to do? How do I fix this? That's what I'm here to help you with, the woman said. You may have stopped the machine from activating, but the resonance is still in play. The temporal harmonizer you've rebuilt is still a factor. You're going to have to finish what Tesla started. Only this time, you need to do it carefully. You need to create a balance, or the paradox will continue to grow. Candy stood silent for a moment, absorbing the weight of the woman's words. She had thought that by stopping Tesla, she had made the right choice. But now it seemed like she had only delayed an inevitable conflict with the very nature of time itself. I don't know if I can do that, she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman's expression softened, and she stepped closer, placing a hand on Candy's shoulder. You don't have to do it alone. You've already shown the ability to understand complex systems. This is just the next step. But time is no longer linear for you. You'll have to learn to navigate it, to control it. Candy looked into the woman's eyes, the depth of what she was saying sinking in. The world she had once known, the world where the future was a mystery she could unlock with her scientific mind, was now a labyrinth of uncertainty. Every decision, every choice she made could ripple through the timelines in ways she couldn't predict. But one thing was clear, the future, and time itself were no longer just things to study. They were forces she would have to learn to understand and ultimately control. "All right," Candy said, her voice steady now. "I'll do it, but first I need to know everything you know. All of it. If I'm going to fix this, I need to understand what I'm up against." The woman nodded, her gaze never leaving Candy's. "We'll start from the beginning, but be prepared. What you're about to learn will change everything you thought you knew about time, about history, and about yourself." Candy took a deep breath and nodded. There was no going back now. The true journey was only just beginning.